Hi, I'm Carlene, and this is Carlene Tonight. Hi, I'm Carlene, and this is Carlene Tonight. I have with me in studio Fatima Gould, and she is a transition and leadership coach. And she's also an author of the book called Over the Wall. And she's showing it to me now, but you can't see it. You can't see the book. Hi, Fatima. How are you?
I'm super fantabulous as always, Carlene. It's great to be here with you.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I think what we need to start off with is talking about, you said, the transition from being single to going on dates. What do you think a person needs to be prepared for, like mentally, the whole thing?
So inside of being a transition and leadership coach, it's really how does one manage the spaces? And we're talking about relationships today. So how do you manage the space of being single? Because there's a mindset to that. I can go where I want, do what I want, buy what I want, don't go where I want, don't buy what I don't want. Like there's so much about you. It's all about yourself. And then you got to get into a space. Okay, if I'm going to go on a date now with somebody, am I in the mindset to compromise? Maybe that person wants to go to dinner, or maybe they want to go rock climbing, or whatever it is that person wants to do. You now have to be in a space of, I'm open to trying anything that the other person wants to do. So you have to open up yourself and increase the things that you want to do and your interests in order to have fun. If not, what would you be doing? Just watching a movie where you don't get to talk to the person, going to dinner. I've gone on a date where we're supposed to go to dinner and a movie, and we go to dinner and the conversation is labored, and then he looks at me and goes, yeah, I don't think I want to go to a movie today. There's nothing I want to see. I'm like, there's nothing I want to see either. Needless to say, I never saw him again because the conversation was labored, and none of us wanted to give up that opinion of what we wanted to see that look like in order to go out again.
Yeah.
So that's another space to transition. How open are you to doing something new and different with somebody else?
Well, it comes to this part where we have to be more creative now because there's not many places open. Are we going on a date to Walmart, the grocery store? Like, what do you think?
Well, even online, right? Even online, it really presents us an opportunity to be creative. Like if you say, okay, I want to go to eat French food and I want to go to Paris. What you could do is look up a recipe online and have you both create it, come to a Zoom call with it already prepared, and put your background as a scene of the Eiffel Tower, or that person can put their background as a scene of a villa, so that, you couldn't be able to do that anywhere because you're not getting that. So now I think there's more room for people to be really creative. Pick a scene where you want to go. Pick a food that you like. Each person prepare it, whether one person is doing skip the dish or the other person's making it. You come already with the dish and the scene behind you, and boom, there you go.
That's different. I've never actually thought about that, but yeah, because I feel like now more than ever, like you're doing more dates at home, like once you get to that point, and like making dinner together or vice versa. But we're talking about online, and we talked about just talking to that person, but how do you feel about online dating? Like that's a thing now. It's more prevalent than ever. There's so many apps. There's OkCupid, there's Bumble, there's, you could go on the phone chat line as well. That's an option. But, how do you figure out like, which one should I work on? Like if I'm now ready?
That's a good question for me, because if I had to date during this online dating thing, I would be single for like ever and a day. Because for me, it's how do I get connected with somebody? And I can't get connected with somebody on a picture. Like, I'm not saying that that's not for everyone. If people want to do that, that's fine. But for me, I can't connect it to somebody in a picture, because what's in the back of my mind when I went on Plenty of Fish. So I was like, I saw the pictures. And then I said to my friend, oh, I created a Plenty of Fish account. He goes, you don't want to do that. You need to get off, and you need to get off right now. I'm like, why? Look at all these nice array of people. No, they don't actually look like that. They don't actually do what they said they're going to do. You don't want to do that. I had that from so many people. So I was like, okay. And then I saw my friend on there. I was like, dear, that's not a flattering picture. I don't want anybody to see me. I'm done. So I was so done with Plenty of Fish.
Really bad experiences with Plenty of Fish, nothing to write home about. I've had horrible dates. I remember meeting with this one guy. We made plans to go to the jazz festival. And Fatima, I got ready, went all the way down there. I was living in North York at the time. And then we went to Tim Hortons and he was so fidgety. Like we couldn't even sit and have a coffee because he's like, oh, I always have to be moving. I don't like to sit for long periods of time. I'm like, okay, let's walk. So then we walked over to the jazz festival and he was just such a Debbie Downer. Like he didn't even want to stay long and experience it. Like we were there for like 15 minutes and he was like, oh, this is not the same as how it used to be. And I'm like, how did it used to be? He's like, we had more bands and da-da-da. I'm like, we haven't even been here for like that long to experience it. What do you mean? And that was the shortest date. I was like, I got dressed. I'm like, I came all the way down here for nothing. I was so mad, just like those wasted dates. So just like, really? Came all the way down here for this.
and I personally think it's in the questions that you start asking people in order to get related to them. Like, where are you from? Like, what do you do for a living? Do you have kids? Where are your parents from? What things do you like? And if people are antsy about just those questions, it's like red flags have to go off. Like, how can you be antsy about questions that I'm asking you about yourself? That to me is kind of weird. And that to me sent up red flags. So I was like, no, we can't be doing this. And first of all, we're doing it online where I'm sending you a chat message and there's days you're not responding back. But I know a couple, they met on that site and they're still together today. It's just because they knew exactly what they wanted. They put in their profile what they wanted. They were matched up with somebody that they want. They went out and they hit it off. She's a chatterbox. He's a chatterbox. She's very outgoing, but he's willing to be outgoing. And that's the thing. There has to be like a willingness of the other person to be outgoing and to experience. So if I wasn't a jazz person and I went out with you, I'd be like, oh, this is exciting. But I have to already come being willing to experience something new, to take it all in, to stay for a couple of hours. But people get stopped by, first of all, they're not willing. And that just wastes the other person's time. So then to transition to that, you got to be open. You got to be open to new experiences. You got to be open to really making that quick connection by asking the questions. Okay, let's move from texting. Okay, would you mind if I called you? And then having a conversation on the phone where, again, you can hear their voice. Is there a lag in the conversation? Do they give you one-word answers? Are you asking open-ended questions? Like, what does that look like in terms of communication? Are you passive-aggressive in your communication? Are you too aggressive? People got to know that about themselves before even putting themselves out there to be with somebody else.
As far as getting ready, like say you're ready to date, do you feel like there's certain things in your life you have to be able to be comfortable with and working on? Like I asked someone else I had on the guest before about like, wanting kids or not knowing if you want kids. Like, is that something that you should figure out? Maybe you're not sure. Like maybe you're like, okay, well, I don't really want to have kids right now, but maybe if I met somebody that might change my mind, or, you know what I mean? Is that a deal breaker? Like some people already know that they want kids.
Right. I really think that is something that somebody innately knows within themselves that they want. And as you go through life from your 20s to your 30s, the desire becomes stronger or it doesn't. Or you could be saying like, I want to have kids and I'm within childbearing age, so I want to get together with somebody who has kids. But if we can't have kids together and they already have kids, then I'm okay with that. But that's a conversation for you to already, in preparation for dating, to have with yourself and be prepared one way or another. So when I was in my 20s, I knew I wanted kids. So obviously I was going to date somebody who wanted kids. If the person didn't want kids, then, and I'm in the discovery phase of getting to know them, and they said to me, I hate kids, I don't want kids. Well, why am I going out on a second and third date with you? Like you clearly don't want them. But when I met my husband, the conversation was, we were in our 40s. I already had 2 kids. He already had 2 kids. And we were like, okay, where are we at with kids? He was like, well, if you got pregnant, we would have a kid, but I'm not intentionally going out there to have kids because I already have 2 kids. And then I said, well, okay, I'm on that page too. I already have 2 kids. We have 4 kids together. If it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, I'm okay with that. And then I coached somebody. She was older and she already had 2 kids. He was younger, didn't have no kids. And she didn't want to have kids. I said, okay, you need to go have a conversation with him. And he said to her, I don't want to have kids right now, but I will in the future. Well, she's already 40. In the future is when she's 50. So she had to break it off. No matter how much she cared about him, he wanted kids and she didn't. Oh. So she had to let him go so that he could find somebody to have those kids with in the future.
Wow, it's true. Like I guess they say in that saying, if you love someone, you have to let them go. And I guess in that instant, she had to let that person go, which is just like, different stages in life. No matter what, people say age is just a number, but sometimes it does impact everything.
It impacts a lot.
Yeah, because you have to be at that same level. So in terms of dating, so if you've met someone and you're dating and you get to that point where you want to move in with the person, what advice do you have for that? Because I've done that too, where I've lived with a person, and obviously it makes you realize everything about, like, there's no hiding.
Yeah, there's an old I'm going to say West Indian saying, come see me and come live with me is 2 different things. Come see me and come live with me is 2 different things. And I learned that by living with somebody, seeing them and living with them. That taught me the definition of what that really meant. So when you're getting ready to live with somebody, and I've heard another friend of mine saying there's 2 things you have to be willing to share as a woman. You have to be willing to share your body and your finances. And that definitely are the 2 things that you have to think about, because when you're living with somebody, finances is key. Are you going to have 2 separate accounts and then one account that you pay everything from? Because a lot of people say, I'm not sharing my money, I'm not sharing this. Well, then how are you paying those bills? That means that you have to have one central account that everything comes out of, and then you have one for yourself. And then you have to share your body in terms of being intimate with somebody. That's a give and take, and both people have to be consent and be willing to want to do it. It can't be all one-sided. And you have to be comfortable with doing that, whether it's in the dark, in the light, whatever it is you want to do, role play, whatever. And again, that's another thing of you have to be open, because you might be accustomed to one thing and they might be accustomed to something else. And it's always a conversation.
When do you have that conversation? I think some people have I remember moving in with someone after being with them for 6 months. And then there's been maybe after a year. So I guess that conversation definitely needs to happen at some point, right? Whether or not you figure out, are we going to move in together or are we going to wait? But I feel like it's important to see that person in all facets, because when you're just dating them, you're not seeing how they live. And what's your stance on that? Getting to know someone and then either living with them before marriage to figure everything out, or waiting until you get married?
It's definitely a conversation. It depends on how much of a conversation are you having with the person, and then how honest are they about that in the conversations that you're having with them. So if you have a conversation with them and somebody lives on their own, right, and you're going over there all the time, realize that their house is just filthy and you're a tidy person. Can you live in a filthy house? Then why would you do that to yourself? Or are you going to come up with a schedule? Okay, I like the house to be clean. How often are you willing to clean, or do I have to do it all myself? Ask that question. And if they're like, I don't like to clean, but you can do it all yourself, that is not a good answer, because 10 years into it, that means you're doing all the cleaning and what the other person doing. I like to pay my bills on time. When do you like to pay your bills? I don't care. Sorry. That means that my credit, if you marry the person, is tied to your credit. That means I'm going to have bad credit. So yeah, you need to figure out how you're going to pay your bills, when you're going to pay the bills. Are they going to be on time? Whose name are they going to be in? Because I had it that they were all in my name, and he didn't care he just I don't care when they get paid. I pay whenever I feel like it. No, that's not Fatima's bad credit. So I got money from him and I paid all the bills and I paid them on time and so kept my good credit. So that's another thing you got to talk about. So, and then you got to talk about insurance for a vehicle. Okay, he's got 10 accidents. I've had none. I got a 10-star rating. To your 2-star rating, no, I'm not willing to take a 2-star rating. So how about I just insure it under my name? These are all questions that you have to have. Listen, Creflo Dollar said, there's 10 questions I think he had a podcast on, and everyone was right. You got to ask these things up front. What is your credit like? I don't got any. So, okay. So how about we wait till you get some credit and then we talk about living together? How about that?
Yeah, it's true. Because when you get an apartment, it's like, unless you're renting somewhere where they don't do a credit check, they do check your credit, right? Hi, I'm Carlene, and this is Carlene Tonight. We have Altered by Mom, Outside Lover.
From the other side. Time for talking, baby. Turn up the music loud. I'm seeing something in your eyes that says it's going down.
trouble with you. Feeling a connection. Love is imperfection with you.
Hi, I'm Carlene, and you're listening to Carlene Tonight. That was Outside Lover by Altered by Mom. And this is Larger Than the Ribs.
Is it worse to be hurt in the heart or the brain?
Or the mind? I don't mind, but I'll sing just the same.
It's a pain in the head, in the ass, it'll pass.
Is it truth? Is it lies? Do we grow? Will we die?
Do we drown or get shot? Maybe choke on the smoke.
Maybe hang by our necks. What the heck? All the same.
Do we hug? Do we kiss? Do we even exist? Are you pissed? Are you mad? I can't tell what this is. 'Cause my heart is larger than the ribs, larger than the ribs that contain it. My heart is larger than the ribs, larger than the ribs that contain it. My heart is looking for a heart, looking for a heart that will take it. My heart is larger than the ribs, larger than the ribs that contain it. This is strong against weak, I can't speak, I was wrong.
Or not right, but so close. Has a cat and got your nose.
Got your tongue, we had fun, I can't sleep in the dark.
This is sharp, what is read? If you are what you eat.
Then I'm lost in the fog, acting young, feeling old.
Are you cold? Was it real? Was it pain? Only trick?
If you give, I would take little space for mistakes. My missteps, I'm aware, but sometimes I can't. 'Cause my heart is larger than the ribs, larger than the ribs that contain it. My heart is larger than the ribs, larger than the ribs that contain it. My heart is looking for a heart, looking for a heart that will take it. My heart is larger than the ribs, larger than the ribs that contain it. Larger than the ribs, larger than the ribs that contain it. My heart is larger than the ribs, larger than the ribs that contain it. My heart is looking for a heart, looking for a heart that will take it. My heart is larger than the ribs, larger than the ribs that contain it. Larger than the ribs, larger than the ribs.
Hi, I'm Carlene, and you're listening to Carlene Tonight. Tonight we feature Altered by Mom. The song is Larger Than the Ribs. The band's been together since 2016, and you can check them out on Spotify, on Facebook, and Twitter, Altered by Mom. It's like the elephant in the room, but you really do have to talk about it, like all your finances. Because I don't know if you know, I'm sure you've heard of her, Gail Vox-Oxley, and like her stuff where she's like, couples don't talk about these things. And then you find out like months later, we're in this much debt. And then we have to slowly figure it all out, right?
100%, because then your debt becomes that, your debt, their debt becomes your debt, and your debt becomes that other person's debt, especially if you're going to marry them. And so now you're living with somebody and you decide, okay, now we want to go buy a house, but you never talked about it, and they have bad credit. So you can't buy a house because what share they're being, they're going to check both of your credit rating.
Yeah.
So you have to realize, are you going to be the one to shoulder it all? And if you're okay with it, then think about 5 years down the line. Are you still going to be okay with shouldering it all?
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, if things don't work out, like, that's where it gets really messy, right? At that point. But I mean, you go in with the hopes that obviously it's going to work, but there's got to be the reality of all of this. So
100%.
dating is a serious game. It's not, it's nothing, it's serious. It very is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is serious.
Yeah.
And I went in, okay, so I made more money, but he was more stable. So we got the place based on his stability, but I made more money. So I couldn't take the high road on it. No way, no how, because if you've been at your company for 5-10 years and I just got a job 6 months ago, they're not looking at my history 5-10 years ago. They're looking at it in the last year to 6 months, 2 years, you're more stable. So no one can take the high road. You just got to put it all out on the table. Okay, you're more stable, I make more money. How are we going to come together to make it work? Then when we get the place, who's going to do the grocery shopping? Who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to do the cleaning? It's all in a conversation up front. It's like you have to have like a contract and an understanding up front. Because once you throw kids into the mix, it's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, I think structure is more important than anyone realizes it. Just structuring everything, because it's your life, right? And having a person in your life is great, but it's also thinking about all the important things, like to be an adult. You know what I mean? Sometimes I just want to be like, I don't want to pay bills anymore. I don't want to have to think about those things, but that's just life, right? So
but it's just life. But sometimes, being online, people get to hide. People really, really get to hide. So you're dating somebody and all of a sudden, you want to move in together, but he or she doesn't have their half. Then you have to question, if you work all the time, why don't you have half? People live double lives online. You never know. They could be already married. They could already be in a relationship and they don't have the finances expendable like that to carry 2 homes.
Yeah. No, so, online is true. You learn things. And I think when I was younger, when I lived with a person, it was like all the finances, I found out things on my own without asking those questions and being like, whoa, you still have student loan debt. Well, I mean, I do myself, not to be a hypocrite, but I'm just saying they weren't paying it. I'm like, do you know they can garnish your wages, right? Like, those are the things that people don't realize. Like the government has more access than you think.
100%. And so, if they're garnishing that person's wages and now you have a mortgage and the mortgage is dependent on both of your income and half of it is either going to child support or to the government, that means half of their half is gone and you now have to take up the other half.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
People like to say, I try to, you're not very romantic, you're not very this. No, I'm very practical. We can have all the
you're not sugarcoating anything, Fatima. Right? You're not making it fun. It's just like, no.
You know the song? No romance without finance. No romance without finance. And that's like,
oh my gosh, I have to listen to that song now. I haven't even heard that one. Wow.
No romance without finance. Oh yeah. Okay.
You just killed the romance though with the finance, like you did. You threw
I don't know what to tell you. Then stay by yourself and hook up with people. I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you ain't got no finance, what? I can't buy a house. I can't buy a car. I can't buy a bra and underwear. What are you trying to tell me right now? Like, stop. I can't go to the store because my credit is shot to buy some nice lingerie so that we can have an intimate moment. Yeah, no romance without finance. I need to buy those things. Come on now.
Yes, you're right. Even for the first date, like they say, first impressions are everything, right? So you do want to, dress up a little bit and, the small things count, right? Taking care of yourself and just your overall health and presentation. I guess everything comes into perspective and everything is important, right? When you are getting ready to date. And even now during a pandemic, I think that some people are getting tired. So obviously they want to get out there, even if we are limited in what we can do, right? What about people I have a friend, she's engaged now, and so they just got engaged in December and now it's that transition. So I said, this show would be great for her because you talk about this. So if you are engaged and you are listening to the show, what should listeners consider,
So what now is actually really the time you've decided you're going to get married. And here's where the rubber's going to meet the road, because somebody's going to have to pay for it. And you're going to have to pool your money together because not everybody is going to have, parents that's going to flip the bill, especially in this economy. to flip the bill for everything. So now you're going to have to really pool. Now is where you're going to say, okay, it's going to cost us 20 grand. Do you have 10 grand? Where are you going to get your 10 grand from? Where am I? Now is the time to have those conversations. Okay, you got to have those financial conversations. Okay, when we live together, where are we going to live? Are we going to live near, we want to live someplace where we can afford, or we want to live someplace near our parents? That's another conversation to have. The finance conversation, where are you going to live? As soon as you get engaged, it's like, do you want to have children? Yes or no? How many do you want to have? Where are you raising these children? What values are you raising them with? You know, I'm this and I'm Christian, you're a different faith. I want to be in the middle of the road. My family is a Muslim, but I don't practice. So all of a sudden kids come into play and now you're fully Muslim. Like, you really have to talk about how you're going to raise them religiously. Maybe it doesn't matter to the other person. Maybe somebody will convert, but you have to have that conversation. How many kids, how you're going to raise them, where you want to live, that kind of thing. The other thing that's really prevalent that we're seeing inside of a pandemic is health and wellness, mental health. How is that person mental health? And if that person has mental health issues, how are you going to support each other in that, right? How are your eating habits? I like to eat clean, I exercise, I diet. No, I don't really care because I'm slim and I trim and I don't look good. But fast forward 10 years, it all gets caught up with you. How are you going to manage that? And another important conversation to have is a living will conversation. If something happens to you, how do you want to be looked after? And it needs to be signed and documented, because then the other person is left not knowing, because you didn't have that discussion, right? And you didn't appoint somebody, especially if you have your finances separate and it takes two to run your household. How is that other person going to get access to your finances to keep the house going, to pay the bills, to look after the kids? This is what I'm saying. One of the important things is to share your body and share your finances. Now you got to start a procedure where you open up joint accounts. You have a life insurance on both people if you don't have the money to bury the other person. You got to do that. And everything now that's the first thing I did when my husband and I got engaged and we started to live together. I said, okay, you're going to be half of everything. You need to be on all the accounts. You need to have a life insurance. You need all those conversations we had as soon as we decided, yes, we're going to get married.
No, it's crucial. It's like you just don't know what will happen in life. And if anything, COVID has taught us that we just don't know. Like, the unknown is inevitable, like how long you'll be laid off for and all those things. Like, I mean, who would have thought that this would affect so many people? But here we are now. Last year, I mean, everything started happening and during the lockdown. So I think it's pragmatic to be realistic. Like, I think I used to be an idealist. I was like, oh, everything's so, but at the end of the day, you have to be realistic about being in a relationship no matter what. And I guess, like you said, those questions need to be asked. So Fatima Gould, Over the Wall is your book. So Over the Wall is, in every stage of life, over the wall, like from being single to dating, and then dating to like possibly being engaged. Like, we all have to think about those things. So I think what I want to ask you is, during this pandemic, like you said, we're dealing with mental health issues. We're dealing with a lot of things, but I think we're getting lonely now more than ever. So what's your advice for those people that want to they don't want to be alone anymore?
So what I would say is, everybody knows somebody, right? And start encouraging some like Zoom parties where people invite other people that people don't know, right? Because I personally think you're going to meet somebody. This is my opinion. I prefer to meet somebody through somebody that already knows that person, right? Because then you could get a handle on what that person is like. And if the person is a good person, because your friend or your family member isn't going to want to see you with somebody who's a jerk, right? So encourage those Zoom parties. Let's play games on Zoom. Let's have a cooking night on Zoom where we all bring a dish and we come on and we share. There's so many different games you can play. There's Monopoly, there is Pictionary. Like, there's so many things online that you can start like a game night on Zoom and start inviting people. You could have wine and cheese. You could have wine and food, where people love to cook different things. People bring different recipes and they share, but they can't share the food, but you can share the experience with the person on Zoom. So I think those are two things that I would say. Encourage your friends and your family members to have those kind of Zoom night party, and then meet people there, because you're meeting them in a night, you're in your own home, they're in your own home. They can be themselves and just relax.
Well, you just gave me an idea, because I mean, I was talking to a friend about doing something for Valentine's Day for those people who are single. So I think that starts it. And then, other holidays coming up, we don't know what it's going to be like if we're going to be going over to family. So definitely having those Zoom chats, and just even for a short period of time, being more creative. I know, I like planning things, and obviously that just gives me another idea or something to push me to do more social things online, right? Because that's what's happening, right? To meet someone. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for being on the show. For those listening, Fatima Gould, she wrote the book Over the Wall. She has her website. She's a transition and relationship coach. So how can people reach you? What's the best way? Over email?
So the best way is at info@IamOverTheWall.com. That's the email. You can also go to my website and subscribe to my newsletter, because you can get a whole bunch of information from the newsletter also. And I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at I Am Over the Wall are all my handles. And each one of those platforms, and you can DM me, you can private message me in there, instant message me. I'm at Fatima Gould, Fatima. It's my first name. My last name is Gould. You can also private message me to have conversation. And also on my website, you can also go and select in my calendar to book a 30-minute free consultation with me, and we can have a conversation that way. So many ways to find me.
Yeah. So basically, what do people come to you for? Is it relationship advice? What exactly are people like? If someone wants to, talk to you about relationships, what do you do for those who are interested?
So usually it's when I'm doing the coaching for the transition and leadership coaching, it's a total coaching. I just don't pick one area of your life. You may come to me because you got a goal that you want to get out this year, and it could be to find a partner. And so I could coach you on that. It could be that you want to elevate yourself in your job to a whole new level, or you want to become an entrepreneur. And then inside of that, we have conversations. If you're single, it's like, okay, I want to now find somebody. We can also put that into the structure and the plan and have you take actions to go ahead and do that. I know somebody who wanted to become the next level in a multi-level organization. I coached her, but then, 9 weeks in, her health started to go south. And so we did a stop-start. No, let's stop this. Put the structure in for your health, get you back to where you want to be, get you healthy, and then you can start to put everything on side of that foundation. So, we get there and we realize you're so unhappy, you're not taking any steps. It's because you're lonely. Stop, start, change. Let's address you finding a partner. Let's address you being comfortable by yourself. So I'm coaching the person on their whole entire life, not just one area. And it comes out in an organic conversation, right?
Yeah, which is great. It's important for sure. I'm Carlene, and this is Carlene Tonight. We have Fatima Gould. Hopefully you'll come back again. Maybe we'll chat on some other things that, And like I said, her book is Over the Wall. Thanks again, Fatima, for being on the show.
Thank you.